Good evening and welcome to Bugajski Hour. It is exciting to be back again in Tirana to examine important global and local developments that affect the lives of all Albanians. Today I will be discussing some pivotal questions with a major national personality, and our guest today on the Bugajski hot seat is Albania's Minister of Interior, Sajmir Tahiri. But first I will give you my American perspective on the world. And my topic today is entitled Ukrainian Contagion. Violent protests in Ukraine and in Bosnia-Herzegovina represent a rebellious contagion that can sweep across Europe. These are no longer completely peaceful revolts in which governments are pressurized to hold early elections. When decades of public frustration are compounded by economic stagnation, it does not take many activists to spark an uprising. To better understand the Ukrainian and Bosnian revolts, one must examine their motives, methods, and prospective results. Ukraine's protests are both social and national, against corrupt leaders and against Moscow's dominance. Government concessions simply embolden demonstrators to escalate their demands to force President Yanukovych's resignation. In Bosnia's case, years of resentment against incompetent government finally snapped in Tuzla and rapidly spread to other cities. Bosnian anger consists of discontent with dire economic conditions, high unemployment, rampant official corruption, and ethno-political divisions that stifled the country's progress towards European Union accession. Most Ukrainian protesters eschew violence, but small combative units armed with sticks and Molotov cocktails have challenged the police and occupied government buildings. The success of street warfare in Ukraine can be mimicked in other countries to force governments to resign. As in Ukraine, an attempted police crackdown in Bosnia could trigger even more violence by youths who feel they have very little to lose. No one can be certain about the results of these popular uprisings. In Ukraine, early elections may provoke state fragmentation and even direct Russian intervention if pro-Western parties win the ballot. In Bosnia, new elections without fundamental changes in the Dayton structure will result in the same political stalemate. All European leaders are watching the unrest in Ukraine and Bosnia with the fear of contagion. Much of the EU continues to suffer from economic depression, high youth unemployment, public alienation from the political establishment, and the growth of anti-immigrant sentiments. If these are combined with street warfare, then we may witness a very hot European spring. It is time again for the Bugajski hot seat, and our guest today is Sajmir Tahiri, Albania's new Minister of the Interior. Thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invitation.
I have a lot of questions. Maybe I'll just begin with the question of reform within the ministry. Under the Socialist administration and new government, your ministry, I gather, is undergoing some major internal reforms, including the police service. And I gather from different people it's made you both popular and unpopular at the same time. Tell me, in sum, what are the goals of the reforms? How successful have you been? And are they on track the way you expected?
Well, it's quite broad question, and it involves many fields where we are working hard to deliver as fast as we can the reforming plan and platform of our government. First and foremost, we seek to be straightforward on the principles, how we should build the security reform in Albania. And this means to have a transparent institution in terms of citizens' involvement and access in the ministry, in police, and in all the departments. To have a democratic organization, but also to have proactive and reactive institution, and specifically police reform. We have started with a general evaluation. We thought that after 2 decades of democratic developments and after fragmentary reforms in the Ministry of Interior and State Police and in the whole security sector, we need to evaluate what is the state of the play, let's say. What is the where are we in terms of institution capacities, how we deliver to the public in terms of security, how are we able to build bridges of cooperation with citizens. So we are delivering or developing a plan of evaluation together with our partners. An inner evaluation, so which means police officers should evaluate themselves. How able is the structure in itself to build security, and an outer evaluation, which means we need the public to evaluate at what extent police is responding to their needs.
How much respect is there for the police now in Albania? I mean, in pre-democratic and communist times, there was more fear, I would say, of the police. Is there respect for the police now?
Well, it's hard to say. What you mentioned in your question, in fact, is a very sad heritage. And I keep talking with police officers and with people believing that it's not necessary for police to be feared by everyone. Mm-hmm. Those who have to have fear from police and from justice are those who break the law, and the others, which is the majority of Albanians, have to see partners mm-hmm. in police officers and in Ministry of Interior and State Police, mm-hmm. because this is a prerequisite to have a more sustainable results in what police is doing now and should do in the future. In the meantime, we are having, together with our partners, we're having a whole package of draft laws which will pass in the parliament which aim to reform the security sector in Albania, and by starting with the backbone of the sector, which is the law on state police, and then we have 2 acts which regard arms and firearms and the use of arms, and then we have some draft laws which we are working upon with regard the police academy and police formation. So practically we are having a complete reform. But just to mention a few figures, we have found that in these 22 and something years, we have think about security as a no-cost or low-cost enterprise, which is not. And to have security, you have to have human resources, you have to have budget resources, you have to have infrastructure, mm-hmm. and that's why now we have police troops that in average age are oldest compared to any country in Europe. It's 48 years old, the average age. The coverage of police officers per capita, we have the poorest coverage compared to all countries in Europe. We are now 1 per 480 citizens, one police officer for 480 citizens.
What is the European average?
The European average is starting from 230 to Kosovo 300, and other countries go not more than 350.
So increasing the number of officers.
We have less police officers per capita than any country. As far as it regards education, we have the poorest educated police officer compared to any country in Europe. 80% has not a university degree, and just the 20% has a university degree, compared to other countries like Turkey, which is one of the best, has 99% police officers with a university degree. So we have a series of factors which, let's say, needs an immediate solution, but the effect of these will not be immediate.
You mentioned transparency. Did you find corruption a big problem within the ministry and in the police forces when you came to office?
Yes, it's one of the main problems we found. Corruption was a big problem, not only because you have to fight corruption within yourself to be able to fight corruption outside, but also because harmed public confidence in police officers and in state police. To make an example, the first week we made an inspection in the road traffic police in Tirana, and corruption practices was so evident you didn't need any investigation for that. So we managed to prosecute some of them. We managed to move everyone else in the department and replace them with new young boys and girls police officers, which now are performing quite well with the road traffic in Tirana. But also we found other practices which were evident, but also were quite serious in terms of being able to deliver standards of performance. And I'm not talking just about only about corruption in terms of financial or monetary corruption, but I'm talking also about corrupting police performance, which was the betrayal of police officers by their superiors. And it was a practice not so spread, but not very limited, for police chiefs to much more faster be connected with the crime representatives than protect the police officers they were sending to the field. So this was this huge corruptive enterprise.
You mean protecting some of the criminals and not going after the criminals?
Having joint ventures, which then affected police performance, which then affected people's confidence in state police.
Is it being rooted out? I mean, can the public see that you are fighting corruption within the service, fighting the links between crime and police?
Our reform since now hasn't been so quite, and it has divided also opinion makers in Tirana, but it has struck I believe it has struck people's confidence in state police. But also, what is impressive in all the, let's say, blames about what we are doing now, what has been absent is blames about corruptive practices within state police for now. So at least now everyone believes that police is not together with the same people who yesterday has had criminal activities, but police is where it should be to fight criminals. I know that this will not change overnight, and big things do not change overnight. It takes some time, and it takes us also to build partnerships with the public and with civic society and everyone who shares responsibilities for the collective security we want to build. But at least we have been able to have this build this clinical distance between police and criminal activities.
Well,
So we think that fighting corruption is not a question of me or the Prime Minister, who is quite supportive, or to anyone else. I do believe we have to change the system in order to guarantee that the system should not be corrupted even when next minister or next government decides to not follow the same pattern or thing. So the system should be there, not the persons.
I understand. Let me ask another question about internal reform. Is this accusation by the opposition of the politicization of the Interior Ministry or the state police? In other words, that senior officers have been replaced by Socialist Party loyalists. There is some, I believe, a parliamentary inquiry over dismissals and appointments now. How would you respond to this? What is the state of affairs?
In my opinion, the role of the opposition is quite crucial as far as it keeps us in track. But unfortunately, nowadays the opposition has gone beyond any limit. And it has not stopped to political accusations, which are okay as far as the political struggle in a country like Albania, in transition, can gather also accusations that are not correct. And when I say the opposition has gone beyond any limit, I mean the criminal accusations that the opposition has been making about me, about the Prime Minister, and about the government officials without presenting any evidence, but at the same time giving to criminals a certain support. I don't mean direct support, but leaving open a path which should not leave. And this is, for me, indirect support.
You mean accusations that you're somehow involved in some of these criminal activities?
To make you an example, when it happens, a murder, which is a mafia murder, you expect the opposition to ask about security performance of police, but you do not expect to have the former Prime Minister or the opposition to accuse you about organizing the murder. This is, in my understanding, this is criminal.
You mean like the case with the Vlora commune head?
No, it was another murder, but it doesn't...
Somebody who was a Democratic Party member, I presume, right?
No, it's a pure mafia murder. This guy who went out of prison He had a leave to go for a week and meet his family, and this issue. But or when the opposition is constantly attacking, stating that we are not transparent and we are hiding murders, this cannot be an accusation. We cannot disagree about the plans on how we need to build security here. But we cannot disagree on the official data, which are easily verifiable and accessible by anyone. And more than that, no one can hide a murder in Albania. It's quite impossible. It's police in there, it's prosecution there, it's courts there, hospital, parents of the victim. It's everyone involved. It's quite impossible to hide a murder. So
this is the politicization of crime almost.
We are having a very destructive opposition, which is not helping in building security. And I've stated quite honestly in Parliament several times, we are quite open to work together with them building security. As far as security does not know political sides, as criminals does not know who votes for whom. So let's be together and let's work together to build security in Albania. Also guaranteeing that we will not joy alone about the positive steps or successes of state police. Asking opposition to stop the accusation in the political level, which means me, the government, the majority, we are all in parliament. We can argue with them. The opposition can argue with us and have a constructive dialogue, but not the experts.
Unless they have evidence, of course.
Yeah, but not the experts, not the police officers, which are in the field, which sacrifice even sometimes their lives, and should not have as an added sacrifice the unfolded accusations from the opposition.
Well, let me ask you specifically in the case of these several assassination attempts, some successful, some not successful. Is there a hit squad operating in Albania of some kind of mafia hit squad? Not just a criminal organization, but an assassination squad?
We are we're investigating quite hard, and a special investigative team is dealing on the last criminal events we've had, especially the criminal events where explosives were used, which is quite critical. And again, before coming to your question, I do believe reforms in the system makes it difficult to have criminal activities using also these dramatic means like explosives or like that. And we have worked with the mobile telephone operators to close all the mobile numbers which does not have an owner. And also we are working on, together with a team from the Ministry of Defense, to track any explosive material which is being used for other reasons, like civil reasons, but to make it difficult to be in the hands of wrong people. In this case, this explosive activities started in December with explosives in the high tension tower up in north, which was with clear political messages like taxes and oil, and that was classified as a terrorist attack as far as it has a message, and then went again in criminal activity. Police has arrested the whole group of people who ordered murders with explosives, intermediates who find the people who executed, and the executors. So
was this a homegrown organization?
we arrested the whole chain of the criminal activity, which we are investigating together with the Serious Crime Prosecution Office, and we are having quite positive results. But we cannot state that everything is done and we're finished.
Let me ask again, was this a homegrown organization or did it have some foreign connections?
No, it's domestic.
It's domestic.
It's pure domestic, and these are pure mafia guys.
So when you say terrorism, it was the act of, it was criminal terrorism, not political terrorism.
The first act in the high tension tower, electricity tower, the message was political message. It was during the discussions in the parliament about the budget. The main opposition claims were oil and taxes, and these were the same messages found written together with the explosive in the electricity tower. So we do believe it's a terrorist act. We are investigating on that. When I mean political message, I do not mean opposition, just to make it, but political message is a message aimed for the government and the people who during that period were discussing the budget, the 2014 budget.
So this is terrorism aimed against government policy, basically.
As far as clear political messages were involved, we do believe someone wanted us to hear that.
Let me go on to another question, which is the condition of the National Intelligence Service, which we also hear about. There are evidently some intra-government tensions here between, tell me if I'm wrong, between your ministry and the National Intelligence Service over some of the recent sharing of information over some of the recent bombings, over some of the groups that are active that you've mentioned. How much truth is there in this? Is there tension between you and the intelligence service?
I think it's a positive tension which keeps us in track altogether. As far as I do believe, security cannot be built just by police, but we should be all together. Not only government agencies, but also society as a whole. What happened with the explosives found us unprepared. No files, no information, and here I mean police information or files, but also no information from other agencies, national state intelligence service also included, which in my view should be one of the first making us aware that certain criminal activities were planning to use explosives or explosives, traffic explosives and things like this.
So this was a failure of intelligence sharing?
I see it as I do not want to point the finger, but I see it as a failure of all the agencies. When we took office in September, in mid-September, we haven't found any previous information on what has happened, and this is not a small issue which you can neglect.
Sure.
And when I was called in the Parliamentary Commission, I quite openly and transparently stated my concern and our concern about the total lack of information regarding this specific issue. I think this has served to all of us, to put us in the position to share responsibilities, to better coordinate, and to fight together in order to guarantee together peace for Albanians.
We'll break now for a few ads. Well, I believe the Prime Minister has stated that the intelligence services needs to be reformed. What would this mean in practice, and what would this mean for your ministry? Should there be greater control over the internal intelligence service, or how will this look?
This is not a question of having control over an institution or another. This is not a question of having an umbrella on everyone's head. This is just the question, the classical question we should put forward for ourselves and for everyone who is involved in guaranteeing security. Fortunately, we are facing criminality which is somehow spread but not highly organized in grassroots terrorism, for example. In that case, we would have been not prepared that much. So this is the reason why we need a general reform in fighting organized crime, in fighting terrorism, in fighting corruption, and specifically high officials' corruption practices. The National Bureau of Investigation, which we are working together with our partners, and which will be operating in the Ministry of Interior and the State Police, will be an institution which, following the chain of responsibilities of the Serious Crimes Prosecution Office and Serious Crimes Court, will join forces together with the other agencies in fighting this specific and quite dangerous phenomena. As far as it regards reforming the whole sector, let's say, it is needed to have a general reform which at the end guarantees transparency, guarantees efficiency, coordination, proactive engagement, and also joint responsibility over such activity, and guarantees security for our people.
Well, let me ask you, I mean, it's related to what you were saying, but something that concerns, I think, many Albanians, those that I speak to. The media is full of reports of murders and robberies and house breakings and so on. Is public safety in Albania, would you say, deteriorating? Has it deteriorated in recent years? What is the state of public safety, let's put it this way?
It's kind of difficult to answer to that, as in figures, we are having these 4 months and a half, and in statistics we are having very positive results in terms of public order, security, and arrests and things like this. But we are we believe that the causes that push people to crime are still there, which means poverty, which means property, which means lack of justice system.
Maybe some breakdown of family values.
Even that, but lack of justice system efficiency, which then goes back to people who tend to resolve their issues by themselves. This is one issue. On the other side, we have criminal activity, which goes beyond even our national borders, and which is connected with cross-border crime and other kinds of criminal organizations, specifically as far as it regards human trafficking, as far as it regards
and drugs. I was going to come to this in a minute. Yeah,
drugs and narcotics, which we are fighting, but and we are cooperating with our partners in other countries. But as far as the causes that push people to go in illicit activities or criminal activities, we are, and that is evident, we need to fight crime, but also to fight the causes of crime.
Well,
and this takes more than police.
Sure. Well, this takes us on nicely onto the next issue I was going to cover, which is the marijuana, the Lazarat question, I presume. I think it should be called. According to international police officials, and tell me if they're wrong, Albania has become one of the major producers now, as well as transit countries, of marijuana into Europe. Much of it, evidently, coming from Lazarat. How does your ministry plan to deal with this problem? And should there be carrots along with sticks in dealing with the local population that's involved in this drug trade and drug production?
Well, for sure, we are one of the main transport bridge in the region, and that has been since years. I do believe we have failed altogether as society and as governments to address this issue. So now it is not anymore a police or a mere police issue. It's quite more than that. It should be a general solution, a multi-dimensional solution that starts maybe with police, but follows with economical and with an economical plan, with a jobs plan, with a social plan. This is more evident when it comes to Lazarat. First and foremost, I do believe we wrongly use even the word blaming a whole region or a whole village. I'm quite sure it's not the whole village who deals with this criminal activity. So this stigma as a marijuana village is not deserved, although near Lazarat and Lazarat there is a high concentration of marijuana production and trade. It's not that difficult, although it's not easy, but it's not that difficult to organize a police operation in Lazarat. But the question remains, and the problem most probably will remain. And the question is, what becomes of the day after the police officer or the police operation?
And presumably you also don't want casualties of women, children, and those uninvolved.
It's not just a question of casualties. That is, for sure, our concern, first concern. As far as in the past it has happened that children and women are put in the front line to guarantee leaving out police. The question is, how do we deal with this community to save them from this issue, not to fight them for this issue. So it's not that Lazarat people are in front of us. They have to be with us in fighting this phenomena. But this should be a broader operation.
Well, is the government devising an action plan for dealing with this? Because one hears both in Brussels and in Washington that this question has become a major, could become an even bigger problem in terms of denying candidacy status for Albania in the future. People may point at this and say, how can we allow a country that allows such major drug production into the European Union? So this becomes an international political issue as well.
We are working on that. We are working on building a plan which starts as a police plan, but then opens a window to have a sustainable solution for that community. And I know Lazarat is a constant concern and comes like a concern from our partners. I have talked with them several times, but we should be prepared all together in giving a sustainable solution for that region and for the community that lives there. We do not win anything by fighting the marijuana that is there and losing the people. We win by winning the people that live there. And that is how we are planning to deliver a whole plan which starts with police and goes to development for that region.
Unfortunately, I mean, the point I was trying to make, it feeds into this stereotype reputations that Albanians have in several capitals in Western Europe as drug smugglers, traffickers, and so on and so forth. Something I think Albanian government should be trying to combat this stereotype. And the best way to do it is by action, implementation.
That is true. Albanians in Europe, those who have carried criminal activities, are the same as Armenians or other countries, people from other countries who carry criminal activities in EU countries. And criminality does not have any passport and does not need any EU benchmarks for integration. They integrate quite more faster and cooperate quite more faster than countries do. And that is why we need to better coordinate together. But before going to our partners, I constantly share this opinion with my colleagues and opinion makers in Albania, society in here, and opinion makers, media, civic society, NGOs, companies, development companies, we should work together to save those people. And this is how I see it. We should save these people, those people in Lazaret, for example, and not to fight those people.
Let us turn now to we've already discussed a little bit on terrorism. The kind of terrorism I'm talking about is the political terrorism, or even, I suppose, you could call radical Islamist terrorism. It's something that's of concern, obviously, in Washington, not only in Albania, but throughout the region. What threats does Albania face from terrorism, both domestic cells or recruitment of fighters here in neighboring countries that go and fight in Syria for the jihadist cause? How serious is this in Albania?
Well, we have signals that such activities are spreading also in Albania, especially recruits that go and fight a war that it's not ours. And this is a problem which goes beyond Albania also, in Kosovo, Macedonia, and Montenegro. The whole region is involved with people who go and fight, for example, in Syria or in other conflict zones. Yeah. We are working closely with our partners, and the Ministry of Interior will send to the Parliament an amendment to the criminal code considering any initiative from anyone to go in any country and fight a war which Albania is not involved will be considered a criminal act and a terrorist act.
This includes all mercenaries, presumably, for any conflict.
Yeah. So this means anyone who takes the initiative to go in Syria, for example, and fight a war which the country is not involved, our country is not involved, coming back here you will be charged with criminal and terrorist charges. So Kosovo is working on the same law. We're working on the same law. Then we do believe this will prevent the terrorist tourism or terrorist exchange between countries. On the other side, we're working also in some specific areas in Albania, which I cannot reveal in details, but we are working with our partners in specific areas, in specific economical activities, which evidently include highly suspected and criminal and terrorist activities.
Well, do you suspect or have evidence?
At least, sorry to interrupt you. At least we are confident that this is very limited and it's not connected to the chain of networks outside our borders.
But do you think there are active jihadist cells in Albania, or inactive that could become active in the future?
We are working on that. Sorry not to not.
No, without specifics, I don't expect you to give specifics.
We are working on that, and together with our partners, and any concern or any suspects
Mm-hmm.
that even the minor suspects
Mm-hmm.
that makes us to believe that here is involved ideological terrorism of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking to it quite closely, and I do believe we will have some results.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me go on to another question of the internationalization, I suppose, if you like, of crime, which is illegal immigration or illegal immigrant transit through Albania. Is this a problem?
Yes, that is a problem. That is a problem for the whole region.
Mm-hmm.
People who cross by Albania
Mm-hmm.
and go to EU countries due to conflicts in other areas of the world.
Mm-hmm.
In our case, it happens that these people come from an EU country, which is Greece, crossing a non-EU country,
They come
Albania.
to Greece from non-EU countries, then cross Greece into Albania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they go to another EU country. So, because it's quite more difficult to go from Greece to
Sure.
Italy. So, although we have limited resources and infrastructure, we are dealing with that, and quite successfully. We have limited the traffic, and there is no traffic from the sea, which is quite important because at least we can avoid any casualties in the sea, like
in Italy.
like you have seen in
Yeah.
Italy. But also the green border, what is called the green border, illegal crossing from the mountains, is still a problem, and we are working on that. It is not a problem created or generated from Albania. It comes from other countries, but we are dealing with that, although it's not that easy, as far as you cannot stop a river with two hands.
Sure. Well, let me ask you another question. I'm trying to get in as many topics as possible in limited time, which always has concerned me for many years, but it doesn't get a lot of airing, which is the question of the theft of cultural heritage. I gather that Albania has been working very closely with neighbors and with Interpol in recovering stolen artwork, religious artifacts, various archaeological treasures. Can you sort of explain this a little bit to people that are not familiar, how important it is for Albania to preserve its cultural traditions, and how active you are in trying to ensure this?
Well, it's right. What you stated in your question. It doesn't get too much interest, but in fact, as far as it regards the future generations, that is the more important issue to preserve our national or patrimony, which is it has been in our focus since the first day, and in October we have had a very successful police operation, which sized nearly 1,000 pieces of our patrimony, but not Albanians' patrimony, also
icons
regional,
from neighboring countries and so
regional patrimony. Now there is an investigation on course which will go on, but unfortunately we are lacking qualified human resources. which means this has not been a priority.
Mhm.
And in terms of investigation, in terms of prosecution of these cases, we are not able to have qualified resources.
Mhm.
And that's why we are working together with the Italian police. And I just want to thank here the Minister of Culture, Ms. Kumbaro,
Mhm.
because she's pushing too hard
Yeah.
to have a joint investigative task force, which I believe will give us the instruments to better fight this phenomenon,
Mhm.
which is quite silent as phenomenon, but is
It's critical. Yeah.
yeah, but it shouts in the future
Mhm.
as far as it jeopardizes our patrimony, national patrimony.
Mhm.
So we are working on that. We are planning to have also some changes in the legal framework, but also to have a qualified expertise in order to continue with the investigations.
Mhm.
Since now it has been, it has not been in focus.
Mm.
This and also the intellectual property as a whole, in
Sure.
fact, which is more than, which goes beyond, let's say, the historical patrimony of Albania. Intellectual property is quite important also, and we are working on that. We have had some police operations, but again, we need to shift, and we are working on that, to shift the priorities on what crime priorities are,
Mhm.
like intellectual property, like economical crime, and cyber crime,
Mhm.
which are areas that have not a place or material evidence, but are highly important, and we do believe this will be the future of organized crime, fighting organized crime, corruption.
But there are many subjects we haven't had time to cover, such as cybercrime and all these other questions, but there's only limited time. Very last question I have for you. As you know, one of the preconditions for Albania to join the European Union is the enforcement of the rule of law. And of course, your ministry is at the center of this, so you, largely. So your performance is going to be closely watched, closely judged. Do you feel under pressure as a result?
Personally, you mean, or?
No, personally, but also the ministry itself. Is there more pressure than there used to be on the ministry?
Well, personally, it's not. I'm used to working in high pressure, so it's okay.
Mhm.
And as far as you are able to win this small battle every morning with yourself,
Mhm.
then you are able to win the larger or the bigger battle outside. This is okay. In terms of institution, we are aware that what remains in our path towards EU integration mainly falls under Ministry of Interior Authority or
Mhm. Or
related
Justice
institution,
Mhm.
or institutions
Right.
like prosecution,
Mhm.
courts, justice ministry, and
Mhm.
so on and so forth. Since now we believe that we are on the right track
Mhm.
together with our partners. I would have wished to have the same rhythm from the judiciary, but this is a question of the future reforms in terms of reforming the judiciary as far as regards public access and convictions to so efficient justice system. But since now we are on the track, and we are delivering what we need, considering this obligatory for our citizens, and then benchmarks in Albanian CEU integration path. I know that, and we are aware altogether that nothing changes in a very short time. And although we have the pressure of the time we have lost in the past, but we are highly committed to deliver what we should deliver for Albanians and then for our partners. As far as we know it quite well, that building security here means building security in the EU countries. And that is closely related.
On that note, Samir Tahiri, Albania's Minister of Interior, thank you very much for being with me on the show. Thank you for your insights. And good luck in your work, very important work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. My second commentary today on an important European topic concerns European regionalism. The challenge of both Scottish and Catalonian separatism has focused attention on the importance of European regionalism. As the role of central governments weakens, regional movements will shape the EU's future. The processes of globalization and fragmentation are both contradictory and complementary. Regionalism is a movement of opposition to national capitals that favors more direct local links with Brussels. However, it may also grow into a movement of resistance to the EU project that can fragment the continent. For pro-EU regionalists, the devolution of power demonstrates that nation-states are becoming obsolete. Many Scottish, Flemish and Catalan separatists are fervently pro-European, and they argue that the nation-state is simply too big to manage complex societies and diversified economies. Official institutions are under growing pressure as authority devolves from national capitals to provinces and major cities. Regionalists argue that sub-state units must gain many of the responsibilities that were held by central governments. Regionalism is not simply a yearning for distinct identity, but has a strong practical component. Regional leaders claim they are more capable of stimulating economic growth than national capitals. A great deal of investment is conducted at local levels, and many of the wealthiest provinces of Western Europe are interacting and creating larger economic zones that transcend national boundaries. However, there is a contrasting interpretation of European regionalism. If populist Euroscepticism continues to grow, then a more exclusivist subnational separatism may develop. The EU's most fervent supporters believe that a post-national cosmopolitan identity would replace the outdated notions of nation-state, but they had not bargained on the power of ethnic identity tied to territory and history, whether at national or regional levels. At a time of economic uncertainty and a swelling army of unemployed, regionalism can acquire an ultranationalist flavor. Separatist provinces may provoke new conflicts as regionalists can manipulate a host of unresolved questions to stir animosity towards their regional neighbors. Unfortunately, we have already come to the end of the show. I have greatly enjoyed being with you and with my colleagues at Albanian Screen. Good night, everyone. Stay healthy, be productive, and remain optimistic. See you all very soon. Miro Pafshim.